how would you measure your organization from a story standpoint? There's plenty of KPI that we know of. They happen at specific places of your story to take key measurements and keep track of in a individual or an organization level for the KPI that you're looking for. You might have commitment on the team. You might do that through surveys, but then you have process. You might see how many people are certified in process. You can see that you deliver, but deliver doesn't mean people want the results, and you get the results back. That doesn't mean you've learned anything. So these are all happening in your story. There's a way to think of it that way and measure it directly instead of, well, I do this other thing and then I'll tell the story. You're actually in the story, and you can start thinking about how to work in the story and measure the story that you're in. That's at an organizational level. You might say, well, maybe it's our leadership team. Well, leaders obviously need to have a lot of attributes. They need to have vision and courage and patience and composure and resilience, and it's a list, right? No, it's not a list. These are very specific things that happen in very specific places in the story. And sometimes without knowing that, a leader might use or overcompensate a particular thing, like let's say they learned that composure is leadership. And they can overplay that when the team is trying to do ideation, and you can work against yourself. Or you might also find out for your entire leadership team that everyone has a component of abilities to lead through the entire story, but what's the number one thing that they have? What's their benchmark? What's their number one strength on the team? And then you realize there's no one on the team that walks in every morning looking through the lens of ideation. That's a zero. And it might be an indication of what's happening on your team. This is a report that came out a while back after a several decade study of what we call leadership development from the Leadership Quarterly. And they concluded by saying present practices are primitive. There's a lot of ideas about leadership, about making sure that I'm standing straight, speaking up, okay, not changing my mind, that would look weak. Okay, all of these things about leadership. Really, it has nothing to do with leadership. If you're leading, that means you're leading change. If you're leading change, you're moving people through a story. And you might want to look at this from an individual level. Maybe it's the individual personality scores, because maybe you have a right brain person working in a left brain job, and vice versa. Okay, so the idea is that there's many other ways you can do this. I want to just introduce the idea that we think in terms of models, and we'll work using the model that I use, and then we'll tell a story. And as we realize we're in that story, AI first is actually becoming story first, because we're talking through it, that we can start to look at story as the context of the data, look at story as the model.